So, as it turns out, my date was actually not a date. And, I mean, you could tell me if I'm crazy, but an ice cream picnic in the park between just a man and a woman, like, that's a date, right? But apparently not. No, it seemed like she mostly just wanted me to give her personal training advice for free because she didn't want to pay $40 for a session at EOS. And so we're like just hanging out, having our picnic, looking up at the stars, and I asked her something to the effect of like, "Why aren't you cuddling with me?" And she's like, "Oh, why would we cuddle? We're just friends." Like, I was disappointed for about a second and a half, but then I was just over it so fast, which is hilarious to me because whatever the opposite of indifference was, that's exactly where I was at for most of my life. But like I talked about today, I was a little bit excited. She seemed somewhat smart and cool, and there was a little bit of a language barrier, which may have been a concern for somebody who likes to talk as much as I do. But like, I was like going into it with an open mind, and it was funny because I kind of realized I don't know if I can remember another date where I had any level of excitement, but just a total absence of anxiety. And so the fact that I wasn't like overly invested and wasn't building it up in my head when it turned out to not be a date, then I just didn't care. And it was hilarious too, because less than a minute after I found out that it was in fact not a date, the sprinklers went off right where we were. And she was like, "Oh, we gotta run." And I was just packing my stuff up. I mean, it's Arizona. It's hot, even at night. Like, the sprinklers feel nice. And so like I just it was cool. And then after that, told her that like I think I'm gonna call it a night within a matter of minutes. Like, there was no part of me that was trying to drag it on or like convince her that it should be a date. I was like, "Oh, okay." I see. And then even as I was driving home, there was a part of me that was like, well, I mean, the night is still young. You could go find something else to do. But I was like, no, I'd rather just go home and work on music, which is exactly what I want to do. And it's funny because if I think back to past versions of myself, I would have, been stressing about this all day, where today I literally just was not even thinking about it until like filming this video and then getting out of here, because I just had other stuff that I was doing. I was actually working on work that was meaningful to me. And then two, when I found out that it wasn't a date, I would have definitely been in this context, devastated would be a bit of a strong word, but like very disappointed, and it would have totally ruined my night. To where, but now I'm in a very different place, and yeah, it's incredible to know what that felt like before, but to not be that isolated, insecure little boy anymore, right? And I think that that's a huge part of it, of just not perceiving this artificial scarcity that I had created in my mind of like, oh, where am I going to find another girl that likes me? Of like, last week it was a different girl, and the different girl before that, and in fact, a couple weeks ago, this girl that I had been seeing for a little while, like, I probably liked her more than I've liked anybody. And as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, it turned out that she was not entirely truthful with me about a few things. And I didn't really even get that sad. Like, I just, it was a totally new phenomenon for me to just be okay. And yeah, whatever this is, it's a really fascinating development. And I think it comes from the foundation of genuine confidence. And also just thinking from a long-term time horizon. And so I don't have to put all this pressure on myself and be overly invested when there's no reason to be. And it is so much more freeing to just be okay and to have that skill to be able to zoom out a little bit And like, again, it didn't even ruin my night. Like that's the hilarious thing. Like, dude, I was cracking up. And so in total, this probably took like 2 hours of my life between getting ready and when I was driving home from the date. Best, well, not the best 2 hours I've ever spent, but a good use of those 2 hours in the sense that it proved to myself that I could just be okay. And it was extra cool that I didn't even try to drag it on. Like, I was just like, yeah, I didn't end it super abruptly, but within 5 minutes of when I found out that it was not a date, I was driving home. And I think that was the right way for me to handle that situation. Because, like, that was also maybe the first time in my life where I felt like a little bit like, oh, like, you just want something from me. That's weird. Like, it felt a little icky to me. Because, again, in my head, ice cream picnic in the park is totally a date. But maybe it was just a miscommunication. And I have no ill will towards this girl. I don't need to ascribe any malicious intentions toward her. But it was just interesting that, like, thinking back to that past version of myself of not only would I have been really sad about it, but like me being a people pleaser, especially back then, would have like totally just dragged it on for a while. And I'm like, oh, this is just, we're not looking for the same thing, clearly. No, I don't want to be your personal trainer for free. And I cost a lot more than the ones you don't want to hire at EOS. So anyway, but yes, that was a fascinating experience for me. And it's cool to just be like actually excited to be continuing to live my life. Like, normally this would be the point of like if I had a date that didn't go well or whatever, or a date that turned out to not be a date, where I would just like I would come home and I'd sulk for a little bit and I'd try to go to bed. I'd kind of be tossing and turning, and then I'd wake up tomorrow and I'd still be kind of sad. It's just like, no, like it literally took me in the span of 2 seconds. I went from disappointed to like, okay, I have stuff to do. I'll go home. And like, it's just, that's a totally different mindset from where I was before. So anyway, thought you might appreciate that little update. And I'm in a really good place. Like, I don't even know how to fully express it with words. But I feel it in my actions. And yeah, I mean, it's true that a lot of the stuff that I'm building is not tangible yet. But I have the stack of evidence of what I've been able to build up until this point, and I've been working very hard on developing my systems to just be as consistent as I can possibly be. And lately, my percentage of my time that I spend meaningfully it's gone up a lot. And oh, it feels so good. It feels so good to just be engaged in the work that I'm doing. And when I was talking with my singing teacher this morning, I just told him, I'm like, yeah, I wrote one of my favorite songs that I've ever written this week. And it was like, it just smacked me in the face of like, why don't I just do this all the time? Right? And music is definitely not the only thing that I want to work on, but it's one of the most important things to me. And then in conjunction with that, even just starting off my morning, like I spent the first 90-ish minutes working on the script for the failure to launch video on the Big Plans channel and related ideas to that. And then spent another probably 2-ish hours working through some material that's related to the systems design side of things, specifically development in progress from the Consilience project, which is like a book-length article. It's fascinating stuff. I'll reserve more cohesive thoughts for when I've actually got it all the way finished. But yeah, it's interesting. And and again, I spent a lot of my day very meaningfully. Even the moments that weren't particularly meaningful, I was just taking care of the monotonous stuff that needed to be done. And so the percentage of my day that went into actual tangible action steps that are moving my life forward, very high. And that's a cool feeling. And again, it's not that I've never had this feeling, but I haven't had it nearly as much recently in the building for the long-term future that I'm creating. But it's also new because that's tethered to the fulfillment in the present from just I really do have this amazing job where I get to help people transform their lives, and I'm surrounded by incredibly positive people, and it's just I'm more grateful for it than I can express. And that's why it makes so much sense to really put in the time and do the research to find the place that you want to be, to create that environment that is going to help you become the best version of yourself, and do whatever it takes to get there, and work on your skills until you can get there. And easier said than done for sure. But when you do it, it just pays off. It pays off so much. And yeah, it's awesome. And so it's that actual tangible fulfillment in the present that's connected to really having that sense of community and being able to see and feel where I am making a real difference in people's lives right now, not as a hypothetical project in the future, but then still be building the stepping stones for those larger scale projects in the future. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people in this world, and I can't help everybody one-on-one. But I do think that there are things that I can do that can really make a big difference. Or maybe a better way to phrase that is, there are a lot of really brilliant people in this world, people who are far smarter than I am. And I think that I've had a life that has uniquely equipped me to be able to help them ask the right questions and develop their skill sets and systems to make them the best version of themselves. And in a lot of ways, that's what this channel is about, is like documenting the process of me becoming the best version of myself. And do I wish I started it 3 years ago? Yeah. But had I started it 3 years ago, it wouldn't have been exactly like this, right? And so the fact that I started it 3 weeks ago, well, it started. And looking back and trying to guilt myself doesn't help anybody. The only thing that's helpful is like doing exactly what I've been doing and just being as consistent as I can. So I'm going to wrap it up here, go work on this song that I've been just really loving, and stop sweating buckets because it's so hot in here. Again, Arizona summers for you. But at least it's not like 2022 when we had this this older air conditioner that was very loud, and it would start going at literally 4:15 in the morning. And so for all the voiceover work that I was doing for the prototype, I literally would wake up at 2:30 in the morning and just crank everything out before the air conditioner started going, because it would make it unrecordable back here. Thankfully, we have a better air conditioner now. And anyway, still is warm, but that's life. So things are really good. Things are really good. All right, now I'm going to make some faces for the thumbnail, which is a practice I need to start doing. Okay, there's something in there. All right, I love you tons.